It's Jets Weekly with your host, Connor Hrabchak.
Welcome into the season finale episode of Winnipeg Jets Weekly. I'm your host, Connor Hrabchak. Usually on this show, I'd go through the games of the week, hand out some awards, and preview the upcoming schedule. But on today's episode, I'm going to go through my top 5 favorite games from the 2023-24 Winnipeg Jets season, hand out some awards like the hardest working Jet of the year and my 3 stars of the year. And then instead of previewing the upcoming schedule, I will preview the offseason with my top 5 offseason storylines to follow. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and let's get into the top 5 games of the 2023-24 season. Now, let me preface this by saying these are my 5 favorite games of the season. As you can see, I included a ton of honorable mentions as well, which we will get to. But starting at the top, the Game 1 victory over the Colorado Avalanche, a 7-6 barn burner. There was action at both ends of the ice. All the excitement leading up to the playoffs, the Winnipeg whiteout. This was easily the best game of the year for me. Just goals at both ends of the ice. It was truly a race to 7, and the Jets won. We know what happened after that, but we don't have to get into that. That game in itself was incredible, and for me, it was my favorite game of the season. Coming in at number 2, the game right before the Christmas break against the Boston Bruins. The Jets at the time were one of the top teams in the NHL. They had won 8 of their last 9 or something coming in. And then the Boston Bruins came to town right before the Christmas break, and the Jets cemented themselves as a contender in the Western Conference with one of the most dominant performances of the year. This was one of the biggest crowds of the year to that point as well, right before the Christmas break, and everyone in the building loved it. A huge 5-1 win over one of the contenders in the East, and the Jets really said to the world that, hey, we're here, we're a contender as well. Coming in at number 3, and this one would be higher, I think, if the playoffs went a little bit differently, but that April 13th 7-0 win over the Colorado Avalanche. Coming into that game, all the storylines were hyping it up. This game will decide home ice advantage, and it ultimately did, as the Jets did end up with home ice advantage, but no one thought that this game would be such a blowout. It was one of the more entertaining games as a Jets fan because you sat down, you were expecting this back and forth battle, and then the Jets just blew them out of the water. And then again, that was in the middle of another 8-game winning streak where you thought, hey, the Jets are really cementing themselves as a contender here, peaking at the right time going into the playoffs, and they just smoked their first round opponent 7-0 for home ice advantage. The vibes were sky high after this win, and then we know what happened. But it still is there in the top 3 on the podium for my 5 favorite games of the season. My 4th favorite, and this one looked bleak through 2 periods, but I believe this is the biggest third period comeback in Jets 2.0 history. The 5-3 win over the Carolina Hurricanes on March 2nd. The Jets going into the third period had nothing going. They were getting outplayed thoroughly by the Hurricanes, and then they score 5 unanswered goals to win that game. Sean Monahan with the game winner. It was just an incredible period. One of the highlights of the season for me, and that being the biggest comeback of the year, one of the biggest comebacks in Jets 2.0 history. It had to be up there on this list for me. It could be interchangeable with some of the honorable mentions I left below there, which we will get into in a second. And that game is coming in at number 4. Number 5, and this is a game that you guys probably won't have on your lists, but the 6-4 home opener win over the Florida Panthers. It was a great game. The most memorable part of this game was Adam Lowry skating down the wall without a stick, and then Josh Morrissey leaning over the boards, giving him a stick to spring the 2-on-1 where he fed Mason Appleton and they scored. That was an incredible moment within this game, but for me, it was the first hockey game I ever covered up in the press box, interviewing the players and the coach after the game, as I did all season long, but this was the first ever NHL game that I covered, so it had to be on my personal top 5 list. Let me know in the comments below what your top 5 is, maybe what your favorite game is, or which ones I might have missed. I did include a few honorable mentions below. That February win over the Vancouver Canucks, a 4-2 win on Hockey Night in Canada. That was a great one as well. Jets were down 2-1 going into the third, exploded for 3 straight goals in that third period. The top line played great. That was one of my favorite games of the year as well. The 5-2 win over the LA Kings. Gabriel Velarde got hurt in that first meeting of the year, then came back Ehlers, Scheifele, Vilardi, that dynamic line was put together, and they absolutely dominated. Vilardi with a 4-point night. That one probably would have slotted in at number 5 had number 5 not been the first hockey game I ever covered. And then the 4-2 win over the New York Rangers. It was followed by a 6-game losing streak for the Jets, so that kind of sours it a little bit. But that game in itself, the Jets were coming off of 2 huge wins against the Ducks and the Blue Jackets, and people weren't all that impressed because they're very bad teams. And then you go into New York, who was the number 1 team at the NHL at the time, and you beat them 4-2. Scheifele with a hat trick. Connor Hellebuyck played great in that game as well. Those are my honorable mentions. That's my top 5 list. Let me know in the comments below what's your favorite game on this list and which ones I might have missed. And while you're down there dropping a comment on what your favorite game of the year was, make sure you're hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and the notification bell. We've got a ton of fresh summer content coming to you here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'm going to be putting a lot of those videos together, so you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you're hitting that notification bell. Let's get into the awards. I would hand out these awards on a week-to-week basis, but now it's the yearly season finale version, the hardest working Jet and the 3 stars of the year. Let's start with the hardest working Jet.
The hardest working Jet.
My hardest working Jet of the year is Adam Lowry. He's got the hard hat on there, and he did for the majority of the season. He gave the team energy on a lot of nights where they didn't have it. His first full year as captain, I feel like he had a great impact on the ice and off the ice. A great season from Adam Lowry, and he gets the hard hat for my hardest working Jet of the year. My 3rd star of the year is Mark Scheifele. He almost was at a point a game again this year. He did miss some time due to injury, but I feel like he was there driving offense night in and night out for this Winnipeg Jets team. And when they had that best version of their top line together with him, Ehlers, and Vilardi, he was a huge reason for that. He's my 3rd star of the year. You could have given this to a Kyle Connor as well, who led the team in goals and was even in the NHL lead at one point. Maybe Nikolai Ehlers, who played a full 82 games and produced. Gabriel Vilardi, who was in and out of the lineup, but when in the lineup, played great. There's a lot of candidates for this 3rd star, but I'm going to go with Mark Scheifele on the season finale of Winnipeg Jets Weekly. My 2nd star of the year is Josh Morrissey, and this one was easy. I feel like he would have been the 1st star of the year had the 1st star not had as good of a season as he did, and we'll get into that in a second. But Josh Morrissey last year had 76 points in 78 games. This year, 69 points in 81 games played. He sat out the last game. He could have played the full 82, but remained healthy for the playoff run, and he was a huge part of that playoff run as well, scoring 3 goals and being probably the best Jet by a mile in that first round series, even though they lost in 5 games. I thought he had a better all-around year this year than he did last year. The power play struggling didn't help his point total at all, but I thought he even built off of last year and was even better. So Josh Morrissey's my 2nd star of the year on the season finale of Jets Weekly. Who else other than Connor Hellebuyck? He's my 1st star of the year on Winnipeg Jets Weekly. He had the 60 games played, 37, 19, and 4 record, a 2.39 goals against average, and a 921 save percentage, and by Money Puck's tracking was by far the best goaltender in goals saved above expected at 33.1. He's going to run away with the Vezina Trophy, his 2nd of his career, and the Jets also picked up the William M. Jennings Trophy, given to the team that allows the fewest goals against over the course of the season. Him and Laurent Brossoit both played a massive role in that. They only allowed 199 goals this season. Florida was 2nd at 200, came right down to the wire, but the Jets secured it. Connor Hellebuyck, another dominant season, and his extension doesn't even kick in till next year after signing that massive extension on Thanksgiving last year. Connor Hellebuyck, he's my 1st star of the year on the season finale of Winnipeg Jets Weekly. This is usually the part of Winnipeg Jets Weekly where I would preview the upcoming schedule, but instead I'm going to preview the offseason, run through what I think will be the top 5 storylines to watch for the Winnipeg Jets this offseason. Drop a comment below. Do you agree with the 1st star of the year, Connor Hellebuyck? Maybe you don't agree with Mark Scheifele being the 3rd star of the year. Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the like. Let's get into the top 5 storylines of the offseason. And here's what I think the top 5 offseason storylines are going to be. A lot of key roles left unattended. Some big decisions need to be made here by the Jets in the offseason, starting with the head coach, Rick Bowness, after coaching over 2,500 games in the NHL. He retired on Monday, May 6th, leaving the head coaching job open. The Jets have already started conducting some interviews. Will it be Scott Arniel? I think that's the biggest storyline and the biggest key to future success for the Jets this offseason. Secondly, Nikolai Ehlers has 1 year left on his contract at $6 million. He is extension eligible on July 1st, which means he can extend here for the long term. Does he sign that contract? If not, the Jets will likely look to trade him. I think that's the second biggest storyline this offseason. What happens with Nikolai Ehlers? Number 3, lots of pending unrestricted and restricted free agents like Sean Monahan, Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon, Tyler Toffoli, Laurent Brossoit, Cole Perfetti's in that RFA mix along with David Gustafson. Colin Miller's a UFA as well. A lot of decisions need to be made there. Do the Jets bring back both or one of Dylan DeMello or Brendan Dillon? Sean Monahan was a good second line center here. Does he come back? Cole Perfetti, he's definitely coming back, but what does his contract look like? That's for me the third biggest storyline this offseason. Coming in at number 4, an infusion of youth. This comes with number 3. Do they bring back Sean Monahan? Do they bring back Dillon or DeMello? If not, you could see players like Brad Lambert step into an NHL role next season. You could see Ville Heinola step into an NHL role next season. If the Jets are truly high on Elias Salamonson, you could see him step into an NHL role next season. There's a lot that could happen. It goes hand in hand with number 3 on the list. Whether or not they bring those veterans back, if they don't, you could maybe see an infusion of youth. And then number 5, managing cap space. Nate Schmidt, Neil Pionk, both near $6 million left with 1 year left on their contracts. Along with Alex Iafallo, who's got $4 million with 1 year left. The Jets, I believe, have just over $13 million in cap space to use this offseason. How do they manage that? Do they attach an asset to a Nate Schmidt deal to get out of that contract, the last year of it? Do they extend some players? Do they trade away an Alex Iafallo to have some more breathing room against the cap? For me, that's another big storyline to watch for this offseason. Here's my 5. Which one did I forget? Let me know in the comments below. But I think this is going to make for a ton of content here at Winnipeg Sports Talk, so make sure you don't miss any, hitting that notification bell. And that's going to do it for the season finale of Winnipeg Jets Weekly. Thank you to everyone who supported this show throughout the season. It was an absolute blast to put together. I think I started it the 3rd week of the season, carried it through all the way to the playoffs, and now here we are at the season finale. It went by way too fast. But all the comments I see, all the kind comments, the likes, I do see it all, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, and I can't wait to do this again next season. I'll see you back week 1 for Winnipeg Jets Weekly. Until then, have a great summer, everyone, and I'll be keeping in touch with tons of summer content here on the WST YouTube channel. Enjoy your summer, and thanks for supporting Winnipeg Jets Weekly all season long.